Make no mistake, Cult of the Lamb is one of the most graphically profound games this year. It's not just the 2D cut art paper styled graphics, it's the use of color. That momentary oversaturated bleed of the screen filters in on the title to remind you of horror films and low budget YouTube fan flicks. It's a pencil drawn animated shadow that filters out on these cute creatures that are somehow a menagerie of creepy alterations and then downright monstrosities mixed together. The color work, the creature design, it just all comes together. Even the slight shaking of the screen with every swing imparting action in a game that might not be able to do it easily without something exactly like that. Let's talk about Cult of the Lamb. But first up, a word from our sponsors. You know that the only way to review or preview a game is on a machine that's capable of 3.5 hecadumps per pump cycle given to you by a faceless company to play a game you got for free. So I want to thank today's sponsor, you, for watching. Cult of the Lamb is a roguelike mixed with a bit of Sim Town, and I have got to spend a good deal of time with it for a preview and later review build. Even though lambs are always led to the slaughter, in Cult of the Lamb you get to see what happens when the lamb that's led to the slaughter is also led out to sacrifice others and instead resurrected by an ancient god to return him to power by going out into the land, taking down enemies, gathering resources, and then going back and building up your followers and your town and repeating it again and again and again. What follows is a soft, pillowy murder machine with a roguelike part and SimCity elements smashed together. As you start each level, you get a random weapon from assorted swords and axes and random curses, which is basically a spell but probably called curse because it's scarier that way. Curses can be homing missiles, tentacle torpedoes that thunder out across the screen in compass point directions, and more. You use your skills to blast away enemies, dodge and duck and dive through each section with cuter, deadlier, creepier, and craftier enemies as you continue to progress and unlock new locations. Each section has a couple randomized parts that become your map, and when you get to the end of any small location within that map, you also get to choose which path to continue on, many times with an icon indicating what might be there. It's a double random feature, really, with the locations originally random and then sometimes 3 to 4 different paths of progress for you to get to the end. It works very well to mix things up and allow for you to go back and sort of identify that this might be a place you want to explore later, and those icons are very helpful to give you a hint that some healing might be here or a place for you to buy new spells. Hopefully, by the time you roll back to your village, you've collected a decent amount of items for later building, taking out bosses, finding new followers, and putting them to work at your village space. So far, that's where the magic of Cult of the Lamb really works out, where very repetitive natures of roguelikes sort of have this cyclic switching in and out of mechanisms so that that repetitive drive doesn't break the mental backs of gamers. There's that fine balance there. Cult throws this SimCity part right in the center each time you go back, and it is genius. It's like a memory test where you get asked to remember some stuff, then you engage in chit chat for a while, and when you're asked again, you have to remember those things. That's the sim part. It scrambles up the repetitive nature of the roguelike elements. It's just a master stroke so far. In the village, you can build temples to worship, to gain favor, and then use that to make even more items. You can pass doctrines, which are basically just laws, but with a more evil name. You can talk with your cult followers and sometimes do missions for them, find out what's making them happy or unhappy, make food, work in the fields, sacrifice them, and tons more. If they get too unhappy, they may also leave, and you're constantly working to balance their praying to you, building, collecting those items, and consistently holding sermons in the Church of the Lamb. Cult never really stops offering you something to attain so far, and while die and retry and die again kind of attitudes in the combat is traditional roguelike, the sim parts of that met out. It's such a mysterious way of doing the game. Massive trees of unlocks in almost all of the sections of the village keep you consistently refreshed and looking at some new tree to identify something you want to get. I do see that there might be a problem that might creep up into the game, but has not yet. You have a number of places with a large number of activities to do when you go back to your village, and the very nature of the game might have you actually forgetting which upgrade tree or item is where. They're vast. There's a lot of them, and the two types of gameplay are just so different that it might lead a lot of people, at least at the starting of the game, to have that return confusion, where they're like, where was this upgrade, or what exactly did I get last time? It just depends. So far, the missions and the levels aren't big enough for that to pop up. Customization is also something this game does very well in the sim parts. You can customize each creature, have them owning their own perks and flaws that are random. They might impact their ability to worship, but it might also allow for them to find resources at a much greater rate, to the ability to build pretty much anywhere on your map as long as you've cleaned it up, And that means every single gamer's delightful little hamlet of hell is going to look different from everybody else's. The game consistently is refreshing you with new items, and so far has been an absolute blast to play. Speaking of playing, when you jump into the combat, you have a dodge button, you've got your curse button, you've got your attack button, and a lot of enemies flash a little bit before they attack you. You can adjust some various different difficulty parameters if you want the game to be more difficult or easier. I will say this, even on normal, the game is a bit on the easy side, but you can raise that up. As I've played this now for about 8 hours, the music so far has been awesome. It is very atmospheric and certainly is on the creepier side. I dig it, and it mixes so well with the sort of cute, creepy characters that you actually face and see at any one particular time. One thing about the game is there is no voice. It's just effects and that warbling sound when they talk that reminds you of the dire creepiness that sets in something like Weird West, where you notice that really scary, warbly, mumbling sound that goes on. And it's far less on the JRPG sort of high, happy, saccharine side. Now, speaking of effects so far, each attack type, curses, and enemies, attack sounds sound good, and there's no issues there. And while this may sound a little simplistic, the complexity is actually in what you face, not only trying to go around the game world and collect items, but facing off against mini and then major bosses. And there are multiple stage, huge amount of attacks that they can deliver, many times cluttering up the entire screen and causing you to really have to pay attention in how you use your dodge. This is all helped because the creepiness of the game, mixed with that cuteness of the characters and the clarity of the effects and design work, offers you a very nice, easy to read screen, even when you're 8 levels down beneath the hells of the Elder Gods. Especially when it comes to review time, longevity is going to be the big question. Previews are always hard. You never exactly know where the game is going to go, and so far I've enjoyed the trip immensely. The game looks like nothing else out there. It shares a couple similarities here and there, but the warped art reminds me more of the creepier Bill Cipher moments in the cartoon Gravity Falls than really much anything else, and that can only be good, unless you pull out a bunch of deer's teeth, and then it's just creepy as hell. Check out that cartoon if you haven't seen it. Jury's out if the mechanisms can keep the gamer's attention, and if the game's consistent upgrades keep flowing throughout the entirety, but I have high hopes for it. This is made by Massive Monster. Cult is out later this month, and you can expect further coverage here. As always, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you dislike the video, give it a thumbs down. Help out by subscribing. It really does help the channel. Hit the notification all bell button, because apparently YouTube just decides who and what to send these notifications to. So hitting that, well, puts you on a higher chance of getting it all. Peace out and enjoy the rest of your week.